Hello, everyone. We are live on a special day, special Valentine's Day, in case you were wondering about either of our relationship statuses. This is a stream for all of the single people out there. We're going to have a
Yes,
blast predicting who's going to win at the SAG Awards. That's our Valentine's Day plans. So,
we're in a
yeah,
relationship with this channel.
we are. We are. That's what we're committed to. But yeah, do you want to just jump right into it? What are your thoughts on the SAGs? I believe they're February like 24th, I think, the day before our Dune preview screenings.
I
Um,
know, which I think I'm on set, which means I'm gonna have to wait a couple extra
oh no.
days.
Mm,
Um, so it's okay though. I rewatched the first
yeah.
Dune in IMAX. It was glorious. Mwah. But yeah, the SAG, it's coming up in a couple weeks, and I think SAG is in a really interesting place because it's going to determine or at least influence the race, I think, a little bit more than normal, because I do think that this year we really do have a race and we have
Hmm.
so many different narratives that all could work out. I look back to 2018 when you had the ingenue making their big break, slash pop star, uh, deciding I am a movie star with Lady Gaga. You had the old veteran arc with Glenn Close, and then you had like the quirky British foreigner coming in and secretly becoming that passion pick. And you had all these different narratives, and it was a real question of which one was going to win out. And obviously, the last of those did with Olivia Colman. And I think we're
Yes.
seeing that this year, where Emma Stone, Lily Gladstone, Paul Giamatti, Cillian Murphy, all four of them had such great bona fides to their campaign and such great reasons for winning. Um, Setting aside the fact that all four performances are stellar and exceptional and deserving. So I'm interested to see where SAG comes in. I want to ask you first, though, do you think that, because we know what SAG likes based on their nominees,
They're very
do you,
populist.
they're very populist. And I think that a lot of times, we give them a lot of credit because they end up picking the right winner. But sometimes I wonder how much, despite some of the overlap in voters, do they really like? I'm a little hesitant sometimes to be like SAG is the end all be all, because I mean they gave it to Denzel for Fences and Casey Affleck was the
Hmm.
one that won the Oscar. That's a popular one of late. So where do you think? Do you think that when it comes to nominees, it might be a little bit farther out with other groups, but when it comes to the winners, it's a little bit more specific and we can trust them more?
I think right now, currently, with the state of all of the precursors, I would consider SAG the most important. I think BAFTA, with the juried categories and stuff now, their nominations in particular are really very different, as we saw even this year, from what we usually end up getting. Whereas SAG, I think, was much more consistent in terms of how those nominations lined up with the Oscars. And then win wise, I would also take them more seriously than any other precursor, because them and BAFTAs are the only one who have actual
Overlap.
voter crossover with the actual Academy. And BAFTA sometimes just tends to do their own thing, as we see last year. They didn't get any acting category right, did they? No, not a single one. So I think they tend to do their own thing more than SAG does. So I think personally this will be the most important precursor this year.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they'll necessarily go 4 for 4. But
Yeah.
I
Our
think they'll do pretty
comments our commenters are also mentioning Glenn Close won here and then Olivia
good. Hmm.
won the Oscar. So it's not always lining up. And I think that um last year I think was definitely where we saw the tides turn towards Jamie Lee Curtis. That was a definitive moment at SAG that
Hmm.
paved the way for the Oscars. So it can go both ways. I think what's also interesting to me is maybe we can jump into this. As far as ensemble goes, I am very strong in picking Oppenheimer. Um, and so I wonder if Oppenheimer's taken care of, will they then go for Downey and Murphy? They've shown that they don't tend to think that if you got ensemble, you're taken care of. Just look at last year, Everything Everywhere
Last year.
won 3 individual acting races and ensemble. Um, but it's always in the back of my mind that this film has won. I mean, we've seen films like Black Panther not nominated for individual acting awards, but win ensembles. So it's not, you don't always tend to win everything at SAG. But if the movie's
Hmm.
strong enough, you just might. And I think Oppenheimer is definitely as strong, if not stronger, than Everything Everywhere on the circuit this year.
I agree. Let us start there then with SAG Ensemble. Pop in. Let's do once again. Go through Gold Derby with Jack. That's way too small. That is also way too small. How do I get it bigger? 1 second, technical difficulties. Come on. There we go. That's good enough. Okay. I agree with you. I think, and Gold Debris obviously clearly agrees with you too. I think it's just going to be Oppenheimer. I guess maybe Barbie or American Fiction would be the two potential upsets, but Barbie's probably the main upset, but I just don't I think Barbie has not turned out to be as strong of a contender as I think lots of people thought it was going to be at a certain point in the season. And I think Oppenheimer's been the front runner since July pretty much, but it's been an interesting kind of front runner where it doesn't seem, it's not like taking away so much attention and spotlight. A lot of the attention is going to like Barbie snubs or like various other things that happen that I think people aren't even like putting as much attention on Oppenheimer leading nominations, Oppenheimer being such a frontrunner that it doesn't really get that fatigue to it.
It's a foregone conclusion, and frankly, I think it's also everybody agrees. I think it's the rare frontrunner that everybody's kind of, and whether it's the Christopher Nolan overdue factor, whether it is the fact that it's a popular movie, whether it's, the craft of the film, whatever people's reasoning is, I just think it's inoffensive to think that Oppenheimer is at the top of these lists. And that's rare for the front runner. I feel like a lot of times the front runner comes under much scrutiny. We talk about La La Land syndrome of, La La Land, if the Oscar voting was held beginning of January, probably would have won Best Picture. But after having to survive the plague of, is it that good conversations, it fell under Moonlight. And also Moonlight was such a once in a lifetime film as well. It's a great year for film. But Oppenheimer's not hitting that. I just think that, and I just think that there's no real animosity against it. I think that it's talking about an important subject matter. It says it in an effective way. I would love to, what are the think pieces against it that we would see at this stage?
Yeah, there isn't any. And also on your little laggy, I'm not sure if you've noticed you're up and down a little bit. But I think Oppenheimer, also probably has the biggest ensemble of all of these people. Just like even down to like the most supporting characters. Casey Affleck comes in for like one tiny scene, and obviously not all these people are on the actual SAG list. But I think I haven't looked at who has the longest list of cast members who actually qualify for SAG Ensemble. Usually that's a good indicator. I think Oppenheimer would be up there probably with Barbie. I think those are probably your top two with the biggest listed ensemble. So they're your top two. American Fiction, maybe it could like be like a coda like surprise thing, but this isn't this, if in a different Oscar season maybe, but up against Oppenheimer, I really don't think so. And there was also a world where if The Color Purple did much better, that I think it could have been like a Hidden Figures and surprised here. But that's not going to happen either. So that's a pretty easy one. I think we can all agree on that. Any last thoughts on ensemble before we move on to some trickier ones? You are muted, by the way.
Here we go. Technical. Hear me?
We're doing it live. Yes, you're good. Yeah.
The Color Purple has the most nominees to its ensemble in this.
Oh, it does.
Okay. And everything else is pretty even. The only people that would receive a SAG award from Oppenheimer's cast is Casey Affleck, Emily Blunt, Kenneth Branagh, Matt Damon, Robert Downey Jr., Josh Hartnett, Rami Malek, Cillian Murphy, and Florence Pugh. Now, again, I think we've talked about this when we reacted to the nominations, maybe not. Apparently, the way SAG does this is that you have to have single credit titles or single title credits, which means that, for example, Simu Liu and Kingsley Ben-Adir are double titled on the ensemble in the opening credits, which would disqualify them from this. That's the way they do it. And I understand needing to put a stop somewhere, but I honestly think that there should probably, the studio should present who they want to nominate, their own movie, who they feel like is worthy, and that can be negotiated with the contract. Not this like firm rule for all the movies. And then also I think that, it should be a case-by-case basis, and SAG should adjudicate, because I do think it's ridiculous, for example, that David Krumholtz is not going to get a SAG award.
Alden Ehrenreich.
Alden Ehrenreich.
Great in that movie.
Like, and I think that's what I wonder if they'll go on stage, though. I wonder if they'll pull them up.
I would hope so.
I would hope.
But yeah, and I think it's most egregious. This was talked about when the SAG Ensemble lists came out for the nominations. The most egregious one is Killers of the Flower Moon, where the majority of the cast members are the white cast members, like your Jesse Plemons, Leo, your De Niro, and not the majority of the native cast members who did a great job in that movie and were just as important to it. I think the only native cast members who counted were Lily and Tantu Cardinal. I think were the only two. I may be wrong on that.
That is correct.
Yeah, I think they definitely need to do something to fix that, because that's not a great look there. But yeah, either way, Oppenheimer, I think, is winning that.
And I also think, listen, it's SAG tends to be the more popular guild. I mean, up there with the producer guild, but like compared to, you know, the writers and sometimes the directors, and definitely the Oscars and BAFTA, Oppenheimer is one of the most successful movies of the year. And I also think that, personally, I do think it's the best acted ensemble. I think it's the most, the example of an ensemble acting together. And I do think it's the best acted film of the year. So everything is working in its favor. I think Barbie does have a little bit of the cultural momentum that tends to win this category, you know, whether it's Black Panther or Parasite or Coda or even Everything Everywhere. Barbie would fit that mold. But in the end, I do think that, like, we haven't seen Oppenheimer miss in any of the individual acting races thus far. Downey, Murphy, and Blunt have been getting in consistently, which I think speaks to the success of the film, where, you know, we saw Margot Robbie falter at the Oscars. So there's just, again, there's no holes in Oppenheimer's race for this that I think you have to give it the win.
Yeah, yes, I agree. Let's move on to a probably trickier one. Let's move on to actress. Let's change our banner here. So this is tricky. I think it's obviously between those top two right there, Lily Gladstone and Emma Stone. Gold Derby right now has Lily leading, which I'm tempted to say. I think if Lily loses this, there's no chance she wins the Oscar. This is the only thing she could potentially win that's left, I believe. And I do think that this will be the most important precursor for this category, because if Emma wins this, even if she loses the BAFTA, because she'd probably lose the BAFTA to Sandra if she loses. If Emma wins this, Emma's winning the Oscar no matter what. If Lily wins this, and then say Emma wins the BAFTA or whatever, then it's definitely like hard to pick. If that were the case, I would probably lean towards Lily, but I don't know. Where are you leaning for this? She's got the narrative.
I want to bring up Fraser's comment, because I think it actually is indicative of this. Do SAG voters who are also in the Academy vote for different people? And I would say yes. I do think that when it comes to the Oscar, there's a different. We talked about it with Michelle Yeoh versus Cate Blanchett. Cate Blanchett might give a wonderful performance, but when you're voting for the Oscar, you do have a different mentality. And I also think, then, just setting aside that mentality, the race is always changing. And so you may have voted for something at SAG, and then a couple weeks later, the momentum shifts and you're now leaning a different way. Because in the end, most people voting tend to like all these movies. And, you know, they're splitting hairs for which one they want to give it to. So I would say yes. And that's why I think this could be really interesting, because I do think that there's so much love that it could be it's a fractional margin that will separate these winners. I think if Lily wins here, it really speaks to people thinking that this is a performance that is not going to come around another time. And that, much like Moonlight, winning over La La Land, it matters. It means something. She is the best part of the film, and people did see the film and they liked the film. And therefore she wins. And we've talked about the fact that even though she might be limited in the film, she actually probably has screen time that equals some of the people in this race because of how long.
Because it's so long.
Yeah. So, you know, she doesn't have the same issue that I think I've brought up in the past, and I've come to realize that Viola Davis had with Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, because Killers is an hour longer than all of these movies. So that's one thing to keep in mind with her. Emma Stone is a very popular actor, and she's beloved at every level, at the indie level.
One of the most popular right now.
Yeah. I truly think that I do think Poor Things has done well enough to make me think that
it's almost at 100 million worldwide.
Yeah, but I think you can say that she is the next movie star. You know, she has solidified that with good performances during the pandemic with Cruella, and now this, and of course, you know, back in the day when she was doing Easy A and Superbad and The Amazing Spider-Man. I think she is a movie star, and people give her a lot of credit for that performance, and she might get a lot of points because this is also one of the few places that Poor Things can receive a win. And she's so clearly the beneficiary of that win for that movie. You know, at least Killers of the Flower Moon, Barbie, you know, they can be nominated, they can be awarded an ensemble if you like those movies. I think Carey Mulligan is probably 5th in this race. I would put Annette Bening a little bit higher. I think there's a small chance that if Nyad really hit at the right time.
She is campaigning right now too. I've seen so many interviews with her. She was just on Good Morning America.
Exactly. The athleticism of the role. She does have the overdue nature, which isn't dead. I know, you know, we worry about Glenn Close, but it does happen. I mean, Laura Dern won the following year. And you could even argue
involved in SAG too.
Yeah, you could also you could argue Regina King was a little bit of an overdue, like people feeling, oh, it's her moment. We can finally give her something after loving her career for a long time on the small screen and the big screen. So it does happen. So she could. It's small, but I think you need to talk about it as a possibility. I want to talk about Margot Robbie because I think that she is beloved. She is, I mean, the SAG nominated her for Mary Queen of Scots the year that Emily Blunt won for A Quiet Place. So they love her. She got nominated for Bombshell. She was nominated with the ensemble for Bombshell as well as an individual nomination. They love Margot Robbie. And I think that due to when this voting is happening, it's happening right in this bubble where everybody's talking about Barbie and I frankly think more people were talking about Margot Robbie's omission at the Oscars than Greta Gerwig. That's just my own sense of where the conversation was. That people really were talking about Margot Robbie, frankly, because I think a lot of people, it's easier to kick somebody out of Best Actress that they don't like compared to Best Director. And I wonder if that goodwill maybe ends up netting her something. We've talked about this backlash maybe helping Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach in the screenplay categories at the Oscars. I do think that this could be a sign that maybe that's the way it's going if Margot Robbie's able to pull off an upset here. And I do think that she's more likely to receive something. If Barbie's going to receive any top award, I do think it's probably likely that it comes from the most populist group, which would be SAG. So that's the only thing I will say. I do think that we need to talk about that there could be a surprise upset with Margot Robbie if the split with Gladstone and Stone literally cancel each other out.
Yeah, and as Price of Fame mentions, neither of those are quite like super SAG-friendly performances, Stone or Gladstone. They're no Jessica Chastain and Eyes of Tammy Faye or whatever. Whereas I do think Margot and Annette maybe lean more towards that style of performance. But I would be surprised if either of them won. I really do think it's between those top two of Stone and Gladstone. But it is worth mentioning that I could see a world where there is an upset, and those are I would honestly maybe consider Annette before Margot. I don't know how much of the Margot backlash thing is going to factor in here. I think, especially since there was like a backlash to the backlash.
That's for sure. That's guaranteed. Culture. But I think also Barbie has an ensemble nomination, has the Ryan Gosling nomination. Everybody's seen Barbie. Everybody knows Barbie. And she is Barbie. And if there is enough goodwill for her, and everybody, if Emma and Lily and Annette and Carrie, if they've all, you know, feel like, oh, they're all really good, but they really think Margot deserves some recognition, and it's the movie that most people have seen, I think it could happen in the same way that, you know, the year that Emma Stone wins for La La Land, that was still up in the air. Some people were still clinging to Natalie Portman and Jackie, but she was the one that I think really captured the hearts of people. And I definitely think Margot Robbie's performance is the most emotional, sentimental performance, and that could help her. Because this is what happened with Emily Blunt. Emily Blunt misses out on the Oscar, and in that window in 2018, that's when she wins for A Quiet Place. It would be a very similar trajectory if she was able to win here, and then throws everybody into chaos, and then everyone's like, oh my God, what do we do? Before we realized it was Regina King all along. I think it's possible. And also to some of our commenters' questions, there are about 160,000 actors in SAG. We can assume not all of them vote, but still.
Not all of them are actors either.
The newscasters you mentioned could very likely have picked her and still been surprised that, you know, the people across everywhere didn't nominate her too. So it's a large group.
It is. It is. So at the end of the day, in terms of who I'm going to predict here, I'm going to give Lily Gladstone the edge, especially because Killers was in Ensemble. I think she has the stronger narrative compared to Emma. And as we saw last year, narrative was king with all of the performances that won. But it very well could be Emma. And then I think I'm going to put Annette third, then Margot, and then I don't think Carey Mulligan really has much of a shot.
Yeah.
Who do you have winning?
I'm torn. I don't. If Lily Gladstone wins, it would be wonderful, and I'm very happy for her. I think she is such a deserving actor this season. I don't see SAG going for that movie here for wins.
Yeah,
it's
still made more money than Poor Things has made, but
I understand. I really, maybe I'm talking myself into a corner. I don't know. The more I see the parallel between Emily Blunt and Margot Robbie, it's because it's the thing. There is no front runner. You cannot argue Lily or Emma or Annette.
No, there isn't.
Runners, and I think that's where we get upsets. It's when everybody just assumes that person isn't in the conversation. But if everything else is so sparse, and Margot had the momentum during voting because of the Oscar omission, I think it's very likely. It's more likely than I think. I think people are voting for SAG thinking they have to pick whatever wins the Oscar. And I don't think that's necessarily the case any year, but especially this year. So for now, I reserve the right to change in 2 weeks. But for right now, to make it fun, I'm going to put Margot in number one.
Just because Lily doesn't, someone just mentioned it, Lily doesn't fit the mold of, so I can't think of a recent SAG lead actress winning performance that was similar to hers. Nothing is coming to mind. So it's tricky. And if there was an upset, I'd honestly maybe lean more towards Annette over Margot. But
I also think Annette has the problem of, I think everybody assumes she has an Oscar or she has a SAG award. She actually, let me look up because she might have a SAG and not.
I think she does have SAG awards already.
So then but that could also hurt her because I think what's driving Annette more than anything is it's the overdue factor. But she's not overdue. She's been awarded. Let me confirm that. Mm-hmm. But as soon as I was like, it's the same. It's how and I'm going with my gut because I remember the Friday before the Oscars last year, it clicked. I was like, oh, Jamie Lee Curtis is Laura Dern. The beneficiary for the family. They never won Oscars. She wins for the family. It's a best picture contender. Like it just clicked in my mind and I went to Jamie Lee and I was right to do so. And I have that same gut thing that this is Emily Blunt, A Quiet Place all over again. It's the popular movie. It was an earlier in the year release. She was predicted to get in at the Oscars. She does not. And then SAG comes through with the populist movie in a category that's more sparse. The only difference is that you could argue the Oscar frontrunner was not in the category because Regina King was not nominated. But even then, Amy Adams, long time overdue. She was in Vice, the more tonier Oscar movie. That she doesn't win. She loses to Emily Blunt. So I do think there is precedent for a Margot upset, and they love her. And she's been nominated for I, Tonya, for Bombshell. She's just, I really think that she could do this and it'll make it more fun.
It would make it more fun. This is a tricky category. And as our commenters point out, I think she did definitely. I think she has 2 SAGs. It might just be one, but she did win one for American Beauty. I'm pretty sure. And also guys in the comments, let us know. I'm not sure if it's just my computer because it's old, if there's any lag going on right now for either of us, because I feel like I'm seeing it on both ends, but it might just be my computer. So please let us know.
Good for me, crystal clear.
Okay. Sometimes you are like freezing and then coming back and then freezing, but it might just be my computer. So we'll see what the commenters have to say about that.
Yes, she has 2 SAGs, Annette Bening. She won with the Ensemble of American Beauty, and she won Best Actress or Best Female Actress in a leading role. So yeah, I'm going to go Margot. I'm going to have some fun.
Okay. I'm tempted now. I don't know. This is such a tricky category. They're saying you're freezing a little bit. All right. I'm not sure what would be causing that, but we'll see if it continues. I'm not sure. But they say the audio is fine.
If you can hear my voice, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
We call this a podcast anyway. We might as well be one today.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, maybe if you have like any extra tabs or anything open, maybe it's like your computer. I don't know.
All right.
But let us move on now. Yeah, I'm gonna stick with Gladstone. I don't want to think about it too much. Um, let us move on to Best Actor, which is also a tricky one. Okay. Actually, I don't think it's that tricky. I just think Killian's sweeping. Never mind.
Yeah, I think that this is a group that obviously watches television, and therefore I think probably a large group watch Peaky Blinders, and I think that will help him because he has that legion of fans that are already impressed with him. And then I think everybody else just became so impressed with that performance. He carries the movie on his shoulders. He's a great scene partner for everybody. I think there's so much respect for what he was able to accomplish in both the subjective and the objective lens of that story. And I think Paul Giamatti's wonderful, but I also think that despite the originality of that character and the heart of that character, I do think it's not as much of a surprise that Paul Giamatti was able to pull that character off. And that's why I think Killian gets points, is because there was the most surprise in his work. So, and that's true. Killian has been campaigning, and I think similarly to Leo and Christopher Nolan, Leonardo DiCaprio, they seem a little bit like too austere, but when you get to talking to them, they're so lovable and so likable, and they know their stuff. I haven't seen Killian falter at all, and I haven't seen Oppenheimer falter at all. And I've seen holdovers. It didn't get director, for example, at the Oscars. There isn't that unanimous support that Oppenheimer has, and it still seems odd that they can love so much of that movie and not feel like Oppenheimer is one of the deserving wins to go along with it. So I'm going to stick with Killian, though I do think, again, Paul is a very strong possibility.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, I've just been saying it for SAG in particular since the start. One of the very popular voting body, one of these movies made nearly $1 billion, and one, I don't know how much Holdovers made, but I don't think it even probably passed 50 million worldwide, I would guess. I think Oppenheimer's just widely more seen by everyone. And I think when you think of Oppenheimer, no offense to other performances that will probably also be winning here, I think you think of Cillian Murphy first and foremost. And I don't know. I just don't think, I know lots. Paul Giamatti, I think it made 37 million. There we go. Yeah. So it's a little far off from Oppenheimer's like 950 million.
If only Holdovers and Oppenheimer combined their grosses, and Oppenheimer,
and they'd make $1 billion. Yeah. Right over the edge.
Holdenheimer.
Holdenheimer. That's a good one. But Giamatti, I think, even if he's number one on Gold Derby now, which I don't understand. Once again, the only thing besides Golden Globe where they both won, the only thing he's won is Critics' Choice, which I don't know. I don't put that much weight into that because there's no crossover whatsoever, and sometimes they just do some weird stuff. And he does. People keep saying that SAG loves him, but he's won mostly ensemble awards, which is different than winning a singular award. And he hasn't won one in a little bit. I think it's a little different right now. I don't know. I'm just thinking Killian's sweeping. I don't think it's as complex as people think it might be.
And I also, again, we've talked about this, the idea that I think people are injecting questions into this race because they need something to talk about. And this is something that's maybe more on the line than others. But I think we're going to look back potentially and say, yeah, it was Killian all the time. So we'll see, but I'm definitely not ruling out Paul. And also I'm seeing this question. If Paul wins here, I also don't think it necessarily hurts Killian. I think Killian can win the BAFTA, and then that can give him the support he needs to win the Oscar. I think that it's a very close race, but I do think when all is said and done, Cillian Murphy's performance is the one that people are more impressed with. It is the one that is more akin to Daniel Day-Lewis and Lincoln, to Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. It's the one that they are more astounded by the craft of its acting, but also it is a deeply emotional performance. I attest that.
It is, yeah.
My film professor called Oppenheimer cold, and I was like, what? Because I was like, I can't. Just his eyes are so warm and blue. It's enough to power the movie. It's like a cozy blanket for 3 hours. So yeah, I think I feel stronger about Killian. than I obviously do about Margot in Best Actress at SAG. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do think it's like you said, I think it's just the more technically, it's the much bigger actors looking at these performances and what they're asked to do. I think out of anyone in this category, Cillian Murphy had the largest and most difficult task, and I think he really delivered on it. And yeah, Giamatti is campaigning, as they point out here, in the comments. But I don't know. I still I think Divine Joy Randolph is that film's best shot at an acting win, I think, which, I mean, that's a good transition right there. Let's move on to that. Supporting actress. Am I lagging? No. Okay, good. I thought I was for a second. Supporting actress, I mean, this gets pretty easy at this point, I think. Sweep, I would put Emily Blunt second because she has surprised here before. And I'd probably put Jodie Foster, then Brooks, then Cruz. Is what I'd do.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I think she's sweeping.
This is where the holdovers can really plant their flag in a category, and we know it's going to win here. I think there's again, the smallest chance of anything is just Emily Blunt. If they really want to go crazy for Oppenheimer and sweep 3 of the individual categories, but I don't see that happening. I think at this point, I think Divine Joy Randolph has definitely established herself. I do think that even though Color Purple did get into ensemble here, I don't know if that means that Danielle Brooks is a stronger contender over somebody like Jodie Foster, who, I do think a lot of times you can put the Oscar 3 ahead of the that missed.
Yeah. And I mean, as we've mentioned many times before, Jodie Foster is in True Detective right now. Finale on Sunday. So I think that also helps her a lot. And she's a big name. Everyone loves Jodie. I think she's one of the most, I've missed her on the screen. I think she is one of the most talented working actresses right now. So I'm also happy she's having a moment.
Paul Giamatti is beloved by SAG. Just to go back, he won for the ensemble Sideways. He won Best Supporting Actor for Cinderella Man. He won for Best Male Actor in a Television Movies or Miniseries for John Adams. Remember, gave us Tom Hooper. And then he won for Male Actor in a Television Movie or Series for Too Big to Fail. So he's won 4, 2 on the film side, 2 on the television side. So again, I think we talked about this with Annette Bening. He doesn't have the thing that I think is propelling his Oscar chances the strongest, which is that overdue factor. He's not overdue when it comes to SAG. No. And in the end, I do think more often than not, they will give it to new blood. And they'll give it to younger, people.
I think
versus Christian Bale and Bradley Cooper, as our commenters also mentioned.
I think all of those wins, SAG has had a voting system change recently. I think like within the last 10 years. I heard about this somewhere. I forget what it was, but I think all of those were before that system. So that may have also helped him out. Who knows? But yeah. Oh yeah, there we go. Since the merger, that's whatever the merger means. Does that one
SAG and
after? Okay, yeah.
Which I don't know, if that means anything, because he also I feel like he hasn't been in anything huge like this since
Straight Outta Compton,
which was his last nomination when he was nominated with the cast. But still, I feel very strong about Cillian, and I feel very strong about Divine Joy Randolph, and I feel strongest about Mr. Robert Downey Jr., who's walking through the season like I said he would in July.
Yes,
I'm very happy about that.
Robert Downey Jr. is going to be taking, both the supporting categories you can pretty easily lock up. And I think let's put Sterling in third. Why not? And then, I don't know, maybe put De Niro in last.
It doesn't.
But yeah, the ordering doesn't matter because Downey Jr. is winning. As Sterling K. Brown himself has even mentioned at this point. And if Cillian wins BAFTA and loses SAG, I would still probably predict Cillian, but that would definitely make it more of a race. Right now, I do think it's just going to be Cillian everywhere, though.
Yes, Price of Fame. I think he did forget to save.
Oh, whatever. I'll just do it. I'll just do it again. All that matters is you guys see what I'm predicting. Gold Derby doesn't need to. Yeah, I did definitely forget to click save though. But yeah, and I do think he is our career win that we see at least usually once in the acting categories here. I think that's Mr. Downey Jr. this year. He's part of
I'll stand behind
Hollywood
it.
legacy.
Whether it's narrative or not, if you ask me who gave the best performance out of any of the supporting actors, male or female, I would say it's Robert. I think Robert Downey Jr. If you watch that movie, not knowing, go back. You don't know he's a bad guy, that he was against Oppenheimer from the beginning. Watch that performance and watch how he reveals subtly throughout his real intentions to Alden Ehrenreich. It is a perfectly calculated performance.
I think he's fine. I mean, even out of these 5, I'd rank him 5th, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah. I don't think people are going to like, I'm putting together the final touches, not final touches, there's still a lot left to do on the acting nominees ranked video that I have been establishing. And I think my ranking of Robert Downey Jr., it'll definitely be before the Oscars. But I think my Robert Downey Jr. ranking might be my most controversial one amongst the rankings.
You better not have put him under Annette Bening and Jodie Foster.
Oh, no. Well, one of those, no. One of those, no. One of them. You'll have to watch the video, guys, to find out. But yeah, I agree. Meh. He's good. I just don't understand all the hype around it. Especially when I think this category. I mean, the best performances in this category were nominated this year, to be honest, which we'll talk about on Saturday. But even I'm
welcome to watch Oppenheimer a 12th time and walk you through it. Walk you through every performance too.
Yeah. I mean, I did rewatch all of the acting nominations before I made that list and all that, and I still feel like he's good. It's not like he's a bad performance. It's not like, no offense, I don't think Jamie Lee Curtis was even close to worthy last year. It's not quite on that level for me. It's a good performance. I'm happy he'll have an Oscar. I just personally think that there's better performances in the category.
But I do. It's not a Jamie Lee Curtis. I think are people who are impressed.
No, most people. I think he's most people's favorite in the category. To be honest, I think I'm in the minority.
Win. It's not a thank you for Iron Man win. People do. I think if this performance was given by somebody without the legacy of Downey, I do think it still would be in contention because it's part of Oppenheimer and because it's. I mean, he is a point of view character. I mean, he is part of what makes the movie work. So I always talk about the look that he gives when he's standing and he sees Einstein and Oppenheimer talking. Like that one look, I was like, I knew what the man was. It was just so. I really felt for the performance.
Yes, and I think he's most people's favorite. And yes, Charles Melton should be winning this category, but we don't need to think about that at this point. Marshawn Lynch, sure. He was good for his first performance. And yeah,
the second I was like, and then I remember
the football player.
I remember.
And yeah, we can pretend that she went for the Bear season 2. Although I'm going to be honest, she probably will win an Emmy for that, and I think that's a slightly overrated performance in that season 2. I think she's doing a little too much.
All right, move on.
She's doing a little too much there.
I love JLC.
Yeah, no, don't want to hate on JLC too much.
She was in Scream Queens. God damn it.
And that was probably better than either of those other performances. She should have won for Freaky Friday, let's be honest.
That was good.
Okay. Before I throw out too many crazy things, let's talk about Stunt Ensemble, where this is interesting. I think it could be Barbie.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Why not? Because I mean, Black Panther won Stunt Ensemble.
Yeah, but I don't know because Black Panther's an action movie. Like Barbie's not an action movie. Barbie's a comedy.
There's a lot of dancing. There's lots of stunts.
Yeah, but people aren't thinking stunts are grand.
Sometimes they just vote for their favorite movie here.
That is true. I don't know. I just think because John Wick and Mission Impossible are so clearly the stunt movies.
They are.
Like if anything. Like the first year they do stunt, they should give an honorary award to the teams behind Mission Impossible, John Wick. Like that's where I think it's, and maybe they split the vote. To be perfectly honest, maybe if it's both, you have your John Wick fans and your Mission Impossible fans, and they split, and you go to Barbie. I am tending to think it will be Mission Impossible because
it has the better ensemble. John Wick
makes
is
it
Keanu
true.
Reeves.
But also the jump is so unrecognizable that if you're thinking, oh,
Also
stunt,
overrated.
oh, the jump. And I think, again, I think the reason why Fallout didn't win was just because there wasn't that clearly defined stunt that Dead Reckoning has. What was the stunt? The Halo jump? But I'm talking
Fallout?
For Fallout, that like people who only
Him breaking his ankle.
Yeah, but that's not a
jumping from building to building. I
But,
mean,
like-
that's commitment from the actor with the stunts.
Yeah. They might say that Tom Cruise is not an ensemble, and they'll move off of somebody else because they think they want to. But I think that again, it's the clearest. They'll remember that one stunt, and that will be enough to give it the win. Compared to
That's
John
where
Wick,
it's-
I don't think has enough singularity.
Maybe, but that's where for me it's tricky between these two because Mission Impossible. I think stunt-wise, me personally, I think John Wick is significantly more impressive in my opinion than what they do in the newest Mission Impossible movie. But that's a Keanu Reeves movie. Let's be honest, that's not really an ensemble. Whereas I think Mission Impossible has a lot of great stunts and it is a true ensemble. I don't know, but I think John Wick is more popular and populist than Mission Impossible is because that movie did also kind of flop. So maybe it's just Barbie.
But reminder, Mission Impossible did get, for the first time, Academy recognition, got 2 nominations. So there is, people are leaning into Mission Impossible now for awards. The other 2 chances, Black Panther won Best Ensemble the year that Fallout was up. So I think there was love for that one film overall. In 2015, Rogue Nation, it lost to Mad Max, which was a Best Picture frontrunner. So I do think that I feel, again, I wouldn't be surprised just given how you've set up the race if it is Barbie, but I do think that Dead Reckoning has the most recognizable stunt. It is known as the stunt movie, and I do think that it might be time that people are like, all right, it's Mission Impossible. But they're going to spend less time determining this than we've talked about it. So that's the other thing. Are they just going to be like, nah, you know?
Yeah. As Justin points out, something that we wish we did not remember, but worth remembering, they did give it to Wonder Woman 1984 and didn't even nominate Tenet one year.
And okay, example, Da 5 Bloods was a contender outside of the stunt category. I believe it was nominated for Best Ensemble, but it didn't win Best Stunts.
Yeah, but Da 5 Bloods and Barbie are 2 very different levels of awards contenders at this point.
I'm just saying.
Barbie got 8 nominations. Da 5 Bloods got
Dune didn't win SAG. Dune didn't win the Stunt Ensemble. No Time to Die.
Won that year.
That's
true.
The Spy franchise. I'm saying I really do think it's Mission Impossible. Unless they got, because Top Gun won this last year, so maybe they don't want to give it to Tom Cruise twice in a row. No. I don't think they think about this award that much.
No, I don't think they do. But why is it so hard then? I probably won't go Barbie. But then I can't decide between John Wick and Mission Impossible.
Mission Impossible. I think there's more respect for Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible than John Wick. John Wick is a Comic-Con movie. I think Mission Impossible branches beyond. I think there's more respect for Mission Impossible.
John Wick lose to in its, at least for the third one. Who won in that year? Was that Avengers?
Avengers Endgame and but it wasn't even nominated that year.
Oh.
And neither was John Wick Chapter 2. It lost to Wonder Woman. And John Wick Chapter 1 was not nominated. So this is the first time John Wick is nominated compared to
Mission Impossible ever missed?
Mission Impossible has gotten nominations since Rogue Nation. So Rogue Nation, Fallout, and this.
Okay.
It surprisingly did not get nominated for Ghost Protocol.
I don't know their names. Was it around during Ghost Protocol? Stunt?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was that year was Harry Potter 1, Deathly Hallows Part 2. Fair. Okay. That was a good pick. The Adjustment Bureau, Cowboys and Aliens, Transformers 3, Transformers 3, and X-Men First Class. I'm going to go out on a limb and say the screener didn't get to SAG in time because that was a December release.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
But so Mission Impossible, I think that's the one.
Yeah, I agree. Mission Impossible. And then I'll do John Wick, and then I'll do Barbie, and then I'll do Indiana Jones, and then I'll do Guardians of the Galaxy.
And I understand that there was the Halo jump in Fallout, but I still don't think that was as recognizable and as known as Tom riding the motorcycle off the cliff or holding on to the side of the plane. I think those are more like, can you believe Tom Cruise did this one stunt? And I think that helps.
Yeah. I do think that they overplayed that motorcycle thing though, because by the time you watched it in the theaters, it's like, okay, I know what's gonna happen.
So because the movie was so long, you were like, oh, we still have to do the motorcycle
jump.
One of my favorite things is when I saw Hobbs and Shaw and we were so like tired, and I lean over to my friend, I'm like, we haven't even gotten to the Hawaii scenes or wherever that final third. I was like, because I remembered it from the trailers, like we still have a whole scene to go.
A whole act.
Oh my God.
You've still got a whole act.
Yeah.
People, he did. Yeah, this is true. Yeah, but like we said, I don't think they really think much about this category. So yeah, I think that's our SAG. You're right. I didn't save any of these besides Stunt Ensemble. That's the one I saved. The most important one. Yeah, I think I feel pretty good. I don't feel good about actress. The rest of them I feel pretty good about.
I feel good.
Actress is tricky.
Actress is tricky, but I feel
for SAG.
I feel like I've made a fun choice I can get behind more than my fun choices of the past.
Yes.
And yeah, I think we should be counting down the days until Stunt Ensemble is included at the Oscars. We should note the news this week. They announced a new category.
Yes. We'll talk about that in 1 second. Yes.
Is there anything else with SAG that you want to touch on?
Well, we can quickly touch on who we think will win the TV categories. I saw some people talk about that. If Gold Derby can hit, or I think it's my computer more than Gold Derby. You're right, Ayla. I didn't predict any. I'll have to do it later, guys. Let's see. Where is it? SAG TV.
I mean, Succession.
That's why I think we're going to do it, because it'll be a very quick thing to talk about.
Beef. Let's see.
Let's see how it goes. Okay. We've got Succession. I'm only going to put Succession in there. That's all.
Do what I do. When it comes to the winners, you just put one. I don't know if that hurts points.
This will be Kieran.
But I don't know. Yeah, Kieran.
Ooh, but he's there with Matthew as well.
Kieran. Matthew's.
I agree. He's not. He's already. Did he win? Has he ever won at SAG? No, I don't think he.
I don't know if he's won at SAG.
But they don't do supporting.
I would love somebody to run the numbers to see if a supporting performance ever does win. I think Gillian Anderson might have won, but it's rare. I think the leads tend to win.
Yeah, they do. Also, wild that Brian Cox and Jeremy Strong did not. What is happening? I'm going to put Pedro Pascal just to be safe. Probably won't happen, but we all thought that Succession was going to win at. I actually thought Last of Us was going to win the Emmy for directing because of Succession vote splitting, but then it didn't. So then at the DGA, I was like, okay, Succession is just going to win for directing there. But then Last of Us won because of vote splitting. Though there isn't going to be vote splitting with Brian Cox here. So, but I'm going to keep it to be safe. Thank the Lord, Sarah Snook, SAG winner. Period. That's all.
The Bear. So
as
sad.
We said, this will be quick.
Jeremy Allen White, Mr. Calvin Klein, come on down.
Yep, I'm sure that helped.
It hurt.
Yeah.
Iowa Dabiri, Debris.
Yep. Agreed. Yes, Stephen. God. TV this year has been very predictable.
And Ali Wong.
Is that it? Oh no, Stunt Ensemble.
Last of Us.
Ooh. Yeah, it's gonna be Last of Us. Yeah. Is that it now?
Nope. One more.
No, that's it. That's it. That was very quick. Okay.
There you go. All right. So now we can talk about best casting, which I think will go into effect for the 2026 ceremony, right?
So 2025 movies, 2026 ceremony.
Yeah. So I think this is great. I think that, listen, it's such an important part of the creative process. I know people will be like, how do you judge it? Well, it's like, how do you judge any of this stuff? Like there'll be parameters.
Yeah.
I think in the end, it'll come down to, it'll be a more holistic award. They're going to look at, how does again, I think you're going to have the same backlash from certain people will be like, what was sound mixing and sound editing? What's the difference? Well, if you spend time and you look at what you're going to be judging, then you can make a determination. For example, I think this year, you could maybe argue that Barbie was maybe a good deserving winner of best casting for what was presented to the casting directors and what they ended up creating as far as the balance to the ensemble, I think the risk with casting certain people. So yeah, I think it's interesting. What would be your best casting of this year had the category been?
What I think would win, or what I would like to win?
What you would have? What do both?
What I think would win. Probably like SAG Ensemble, either Barbie or Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Or maybe this is where Killers could get
Maybe
a win for because they did lots of unknown casting for. I think it's going to be either big names or unknown is one of the ways that they're going to go. Like we see with best casting at the BAFTAs, like it was just Rocks, I think, was like casting a bunch of unknown people.
I think this is where you see the potential in certain years for more popular movies to win, because like something like Dune, I think would definitely have won for 2021.
Or West Side Story.
Maybe.
I think that, in my opinion, would be more impressive casting. But once again, they usually, like with most categories, the movie that is bigger and more successful at the Oscars will probably have a better shot.
It's interesting, but I definitely think that casting directors are worthy. I always think they should have been winning alongside the ensembles at SAG. So I'm glad people like Sarah Halley Finn, who was responsible for some of the, I mean, it was her casting. Everybody Christopher Nolan's been, making the rounds saying how, consequential and important the casting of Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man was. It's like, well, that was Sarah Halley Finn. She was definitely behind that with Jon Favreau and Kevin Feige. There are so many brilliant casting directors that I'm excited to see them get their due. That's add stunts, and I think we're good.
Yes, that'll happen eventually. I think it is worth mentioning. The previous outgoing president of the Academy was a previous casting director, and I think and they also put together the whole casting director branch of the Academy. There's been a casting directors are in the Academy, and they've had a small branch, less than 100 people. I think it'll take a while because I think that was established nearly 10 years ago. Whereas stunts is, I think, kind of just some stunt directors and members are in the Academy, but I think that might take, I'd probably say late 2020s, probably early 2030s is probably when you'd see stunts added to the Oscars. Because we haven't added a category at the Oscars since early 2000s. It's taken a while to get around to this.
I mean, but we did see, we saw sound combine into one a couple of years ago. So, they've shown that they're possible, but you're definitely going to see changes to the Academy before you see changes to the Electoral College. I don't know. I think stunts will happen because I think, frankly...
they'll happen. I just think it'll take longer than what most people want.
Highbrow movies that require stunt teams, the more Dunes that happen, the more Oppenheimers and Barbies, the more... I really think that we're about to enter a new age of Hollywood, not dissimilar from the era of the 70s. The 60s and the 2010s are these big, bloated studio pictures. And then there was this crash. And then we have this new era. And I think this new age of film is going to bring with it, I think, a deeper appreciation for stunt teams, because they're going to be incorporated into films that are not just the comic booky summer fare. I think you're going to see a real push that this is important. People are putting their lives on the line for their art. And I think it will happen sooner than we think.
Really? I'd say, if I have to just throw a year out there, I'd say 2031. I think they're going to have a 5-year gap between this and stunts is what I would guess. I think it's also worth mentioning with this category, they will have to be clear about distinction between what casting the casting director does and what casting the director does. Because I think Oppenheimer, I mean, I think it was clearly Christopher Nolan who's I'm going to call up Cillian Murphy. I don't know how much the casting director was involved with that.
But then look at you could look at anything when it comes to any creative process, the director has their hands on the whole thing. They could have suggested, a certain editing technique that is the thing that made you want to give best editing to Oppenheimer. So I don't know. I think we acknowledge the director has their hands over everything, but in the end, they're not. I think, frankly, the casting director isn't about necessarily the stars. It's more about the world of the film. That's why I think these bigger movies could do well. It's the casting of the extras and the ensemble players, those day players that help make the movie what it is. That I think is what really establishes a movie. and a world for you to immerse in. That's why I think, you know, something like Barbie.
Oppenheimer would probably win this year then, if I were to guess. I think that's more impressive in those regards, of people who come in for one scene and just kind of like steal it and then disappear.
I'm interested, if there's going to be a corollary between the SAG Ensemble win and the casting award. I'm also interested to see if they tend to give it to bigger star movies, or if they tend to go for like something like what would have won 2021? Would it have been something like June, or would it have been something like Coda? You know, is it I'm interested to see how it plays out, but I do think it's
probably
a good
Coda
into honoring this part of the creative process.
And it will also be interesting, as we talked about with BAFTA, their casting category. I think there's only been one time that it's only been around for like 5 years, but one time that their casting winner didn't also have an acting category win. So I think that's also something to look out for, who is the front runner to win in the acting categories. And if their film is an ensemble, I think an ensemble with a pretty clear acting win, I think does have maybe an edge above some of the other potential contenders. But it'll be very interesting. It'll be very interesting to see how it pans out. I don't know any movies coming out in 2025, so I can't give you guys any predictions at this point, I'm afraid. I actually don't know a single movie that would come out.
Avatar 2? Avatar 3?
Oh, for sure. That should win. That should win. Yeah.
All the fire Na'vi that we cast. When we cast Leonardo DiCaprio as the fire chief.
Michelle Yeoh's in it. Michelle Yeoh's in it. I know that.
Wait, do you get points for casting somebody in 2017 for a movie that came out
yes,
in 2025?
You do. I think Vin Diesel's also in it, supposedly. I don't know.
Really? Oh God.
I think so. I don't know. I feel like I read that somewhere, but I might be off. But yeah, I agree. I think voice acting is interesting. I feel like that would just be, they'd nominate like celebrities doing voiceover performances, and then they'd get an Oscar for doing that. And then it would kind of feel like a secondary Oscar.
I mean, I would consider adding voice acting to SAG.
Okay,
if anything. Yeah. But I don't know, because like frankly, if you're asking me, I might have considered Amy Poehler for Inside Out.
That's what I was going to bring up. She's not going to win an Oscar any other way.
No, like I would have considered her among Charlize Theron in Mad Max and among Brie Larson in Room. Like I would have just put her in Best Actress. You know, Eddie Murphy was nominated for Shrek for Best Supporting Actor at BAFTAs. You know, I think that it'll never happen because you know the actors branch can't even get on board with motion capture, let alone just a voice performance.
Or foreign performances mostly.
Yeah, but I think frankly you should just see the voice actors in the individual categories, and then you could say, well, there's no chance for them to get in, so then create the category that actually honors them. I understand that, but I do think there's a place for these categories to have their home. There's so many specificities. I mean, we could do best gaffer, we could do best grip,
assistant director,
positions that don't get honored. At least the assistant directors get awarded at the DGA. They get
at least they have that. Yeah,
the directing team. But I don't know. I think if voice actors are going to get anything separate, I think. Well, don't they get something from? Isn't there an Annie's award? I would imagine.
Yeah,
right?
I think there is for that. Yeah.
If not, there should be there.
Yeah, if it's not there, then who knows? But yeah, I think unless we suddenly start getting like I think the way the Academy treats animation, I don't think that's something that would happen for a long time, if ever, at this point. We've got some other people like thrown out. I think the film critic will probably come out in 2025, I would think. So maybe we'll have to see. Yeah, Fantastic Four is apparently coming out that year. We already know that cast, and interesting choices there, Sarah. Interesting choices.
I'm behind them. I'm a fan.
I like some of them. I like two of them in particular.
Which
you guys will have to guess which two. We'll leave it a mystery.
You like the leads?
I think Vanessa Kirby is inspired casting. That's what I'll say.
That's good.
I think that's incredible.
And
I think she'll carry the movie.
Eben?
I like Eben, his casting as well too. And I think Pedro will I don't know. I think Pedro will do a good job.
Also,
I just don't
listen.
If that fits
the requirements that I want out of a Johnny Storm is you got to be charismatic. And if there's one thing Joseph Quinn was in Stranger Things 4, it was charismatic. So I think we're so used to seeing him with long hair and playing that character. I think he has the range to pull off Johnny Storm. I think it's the unconventional type of casting that the MCU was built on.
Yeah.
So I'm all for him.
Yeah, I just think that there could have been some better options, but who knows?
There could have been more obvious options. I will grant you that, but I think he's a good option.
Yeah.
And listen, it's got Matt Shackman behind
He's a good
the camera.
actor.
I'm all for it. I'm honestly, legitimately, even though I've lessened my enthusiasm for the MCU as a whole. You can only be a diehard fan for so long before getting a little exhausted.
This is true.
I am excited. I am probably more excited for Fantastic Four and Agatha Coven of Chaos, or whatever. It's going to be called Agatha all along. We know that. When all is said and done, those are my two anticipated projects. Anyway, we've digressed.
I don't think there's a single thing I'm excited for at this point. Avatar 3. That's what I'm excited.
Dune Part 2, Mr.
Well, yeah, that's so close that it feels like I don't need to be that excited.
Then Dune Messiah.
I feel like that's going to take a while to come out.
We'll see. I think that I feel like we're looking at the next Dark Knight. I think we're looking at the next great sequel.
I think it's going to, yeah.
They're not going to wait too long.
No, I don't think so. And as some people are pointing out, Independent Spirit Awards, I did technically promise in the title that we would do that. I think that's another easy one, so we can quickly go through that as well and then finish off the stream. Avatar 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, however many he wants to wait. I will be seated, and so will about $2 billion worth of people consistently. So that's all I shall say.
I wonder, because I do think the $2 billion for Way of Water was helped because it was such a long wait in between. If these start coming out more regularly, I do think that we'll sink into the
range. But fire.
Yeah, I'm aware of the plot.
Yeah,
we get it. All right, let's
that's all he needed to say. Okay, let's do this. Very different nominations here than pretty much every other ceremony, so that's nice. I gotta fix this again.
No Oppenheimer,
right? No Oppenheimer. One Barbie though. Best Picture.
Past
should
Lives.
Be May December, but it will be Past Lives. Yes. I'm gonna put May December there just because.
Save.
I'm saving them, guys. Saving them. Director, probably Celine, right?
Yeah, I
don't really see who else it would be.
It could be Todd Haynes, but yeah, Celine.
I would love it, but this is, as many people point out, the Film Twitter Awards, and Film Twitter did like May December, but I don't think they liked it quite as much.
Oh, that's right. Yes, that's right. Okay,
they liked
Celine song.
Past Lives. Yeah. Trevor is voting on these ceremonies, in case you want to know. The Film Twitter members, the type of taste sometimes to look out for. Lead performance.
I'm gonna go Andrew Scott.
I kind of think so too. Yeah. I would love for it to be Tiana Taylor too.
They'll want.
I don't think enough people have seen it.
Yeah, I'm going. Yeah. I'm going Andrew.
Everything Everywhere was here last year, right? And didn't it win picture, director, actress, all that stuff?
Yeah, but we can't compare every year to Everything Everywhere.
That's true. Everything Everywhere did win Best Picture. Michelle
Yeoh was people knew of her, more than they've been with Michelle Yeoh longer than Greta Lee. I think Andrew Scott.
Yeah, I agree. I would think Greta Lee is your runner-up, and then I'm gonna put in Tiana Taylor.
Okay,
because I could actually maybe see that happening. I guess I'll put in Jeffrey Wright too, and Natalie Portman. We'll talk about it on Saturday. One of the best performances of the year. Okay. Supporting Charles all the way. Charles. That's all he
needs. Okay. I think Divine has a chance, but yes, let's go Charles.
Film Twitter Awards. I think Charles will get it over Divine.
That's true.
Yes.
That's true. True.
I love seeing Erica Alexander nominated here. She was just as good as Sterling K. Brown in that movie.
It was also good in Earth Mama. If anybody saw that, it was an A24 film. Very underseen.
I need to see that
from last year. It was very good.
And yeah, I think that's really it for contenders.
All right, wait,
nice to see Glenn Howerton.
What? Trivia. Erica Alexander was a previous Best Picture nominee in the last 10 years. She had one scene. Do you remember what the scene or the movie?
The last 10 years?
Yeah.
Was she in Black Panther?
Mm-hmm.
Was she in Spotlight?
Nope.
I'm just throwing right. Was it within 5 years or like 10 years, like long ago?
No, it was God time. It was over 5 years ago at this point.
Okay. Was she in? Oh God. I might need more hints than that.
I think we'll be here all night. I'll just tell you.
Okay.
She
Yeah.
played the police officer that Lil Rel Howery goes to report Daniel
Oh.
Kaluuya being missing and Get Out.
Wow. Wow.
And she's the one that
I
says,
would have
"What
never
girls?
got that.
They get you every time."
Wow.
So,
I need to just rewatch that movie to see that was her there because I
Yeah.
had no clue.
she had a different hair. I watch Get Out is always the first movie I watch of every year. So since it's coming,
Oh wow. Wow.
it's my
was a
way of
great
saying
movie.
Get Out to the previous year.
Yeah. Get out of here.
No.
What else is there? Breakthrough. Dominic Sessa. Marshawn Lynch is a great nomination here though. But it'll be Mr. Sessa.
Yeah.
There's some Earth Mama right there.
He's very good.
Yeah. Screenplay.
Past
It's just
Lives.
Past Lives again. Yeah.
I think it's the. I mean, you could see American Fiction. Actually, American Fiction. If we're giving Celine Song Best Director, American Fiction also got a Best Picture nomination. It didn't show any missteps. Erica
It
Alexander.
overperformed here.
Yeah, I think American Fiction. This is where you can see them give some love. If they love the movie, then yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna stick with Past Lives though.
Yeah.
For now, personally. Best first feature, yeah, 1001.
2001.
Will win here. That's a pretty easy one. Moving on. First screenplay, May December. Thank God. Getting multiple awards here. Independent Spirit Awards got it right, unlike the Oscars. Documentary.
4 Daughters.
Yeah, Daughters. Yeah. Although
It's the
Cool
highest
City,
profile.
I've seen a lot of good stuff about that too. But I'd say 4 Daughters. International, interesting. I still think Anatomy is more liked and seen than Zone.
Have you seen Zone of Interest?
No, I have not. It's
How
not
is
playing
it
near me. What am I supposed to do?
How? You're not in Amish country.
I don't know. Apparently I am when it comes to Zone of Interest.
Oh my God.
I'll have to figure it out at some point. I haven't I have my theater radius thing set to like 50 miles, so maybe I have to like expand it and like go on a trek to see it.
51. It's at the 51.
Yeah, 51 miles, and then I'll finally be able to see. It's just 1 mile away. Yeah.
Holdovers.
I'll have to trek. Yeah.
It doesn't really make sense, but it's the most high profile.
I'm gonna go. Altered Roads Taste of Salt. I wasn't huge on the film, but the cinematography was stunning. So I'm just be different and say that. But
it's fun to be different.
Holdovers makes sense. It is. I'm different because I'm the only person on Earth who hasn't seen Zone of Interest.
How to Blow Up a Pipeline.
Yeah.
That title makes
that's the show.
It's such a a muscularly directed film.
Yeah, for sure. Theater Camp. I love how much attention it gets here.
Camp is
great. Should win that category.
All right, I think that's it.
And we did it. Wow.
Woo.
Wow.
And you saved it.
And I saved it. I don't have to go back and do anything for that. I think that's pretty much it. Unless anyone has any questions, any final comments about anything we talked about. Someone in New York City still hasn't been able to see Zone of Interest. A24 needs to fix their, because they screwed over. Actually, I was able to see Ironclad in theaters, but that was more wide.
Yeah. I guess we should end tonight with just telling you the exciting news about Saturday. Jack, would you like to do the honors?
Saturday at around, I think it's around 3 p.m. We'll have to triple confirm that. PM EST. We are going to be joined by the Oscar Buzz boys, Trevor and Thomas, and maybe Sam. That's still up in the air. Who knows? And we are going to be doing our own personal awards ceremony. And we are actually going to be debating who gets nominated. We will all have our own list of personal nominations in the categories. They're all submitted to Anthony, so Anthony knows where the crossover is between us, and he'll have to give us some statistics on that when we go into the category who's going to be safe already, who's already locked in, and then we will fight blood bloody and sweaty.
I've seen your ballots. I think that you'll be surprised. I was surprised. There's not going to be as much fighting as you may think. We're a pretty agreeable group, though there are some categories that it's going to be, I think, a very interesting. It really will come down to picking one over the other. But who knows? Maybe when you all see what you all picked, then there'll be fervor and you'll be putting stuff on the list that wasn't even on the short list. So it'll be a fun conversation regardless, and it'll be a way to celebrate what we loved in movies of last year. And this will be the first we've attempted this. I think
we did last year attempt this.
And we've always recorded it, and I think we've never been able to get it out in time. So that's why we're going live. It's going to be fun, and join us because
your super chats, your money could influence the categories. Could very well. No, but you guys can make fun of some of our picks or try and sway us live in the chat as you are there. Who knows? Maybe I think we are. I'm able to do polls in the live chat. Technically, I need to figure that out. So who knows? Maybe we'll have to use a poll to break some ties or whatever. But yeah, that'll be fun.
I don't think they give you 5 options though. They only give you 4.
No, but maybe like if we're down to like 2 people for the last spot or something.
So yes, join us. It'll be a fun experiment we're going to try out. But we're going to have a lot of fun on Saturday. And yeah, I guess that's it. Send me the best of luck. I'm going to Madam Web.
Oh, you are? Why?
Yeah, because I can't. I've seen every other Sony Spider-Man movie, and I'm a completist. I can't not, and who knows?
Yes.
Maybe it'll be a fun.
So bad it's fun.
Guilty pleasures, but maybe it'll be a fun guilty pleasure. We'll see.
Well, I am praying for you. Question is, we didn't talk about this. Also mentioning right at the end, the ADG winners. They went as we predicted them last week. They went as we predicted. Poor Things, I think, winning over Barbie is the main thing that happened there. And I am personally now on the Poor Things winning production design and costume design at the Oscars train. I think Barbie is just winning song. Would you agree with that?
I definitely think Poor Things is winning costumes. I will get back to you on production design. We shall see.
Okay. We shall see. Upsets at SAG.
And people were like losing faith the further it got into the costume design award, and it still won. So don't count your.
It's a race still for sure. It's definitely still a race. BAFTA, I think, who wins at BAFTA will also be a big teller there because they're both nominated against each other. Upset at SAG, I think if you're going to see an upset, it would probably be in Best Actress, if I were to guess.
Margot Robbie.
Then Margot, Annette.
Women.
I don't know.
Because I don't consider Paul Giamatti an upset, so I guess you would have to think Bradley Cooper's winning for there to be an upset.
Yeah, maybe.
And
maybe Emily Blunt does another SAG upset in supporting actress. Yeah. Those are your main ones. And this is also worth mentioning. Next year at the Emmys, the drama categories are barren. Whenever we do our first year Emmy predictions, will probably be a little while.
The Grammy Album of the Year makes up for that.
It does, but that's a while away. Next year, our main drama contenders are The Morning Show and The Gilded Age or whatever. It's gonna be a tricky one to fill out the category, but that just makes it more fun. I think that way maybe we won't just have like one television show sweeping all of the categories.
We'll see.
So yeah, I think that is pretty much it. And we did our BAFTA predictions last week. We covered pretty much every category, I think. So you can get all of our thoughts on that. I don't think any of my thoughts on it have changed really since then. Because it was pretty predictable. The only category we were thinking about was once again actress between Sandra and Emma. And I'm sticking with Sandra for now. Could just be Emma.
But yeah,
I want to do something.
Happy Valentine's, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Join us on Saturday.
Yes, thank you all. Comment your thoughts on everything down below. Like the video, subscribe, because you want to be here for Saturday around 3 p.m. EST. Once again, if that changes, I'll tweet. I haven't tweeted about this yet, so I will also be tweeting about it. But come join us for that. It'll be very fun. And yeah, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in a few days. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.